Hello, and welcome to another exciting day of the circulatory system. Today, we've moved on to day 2 of the circulatory system, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so today we're looking at circulatory system day 2, and we're still discussing how does the circulatory system maintain homeostasis. So hopefully you remember from yesterday, our circulatory system includes our heart and our blood vessels, which is why another name for this body system is the cardio, meaning heart, vascular, meaning blood vessels, system. Right? So the circulatory system circulates or transports nutrients around the body, and it does that because our heart pumps those nutrients and oxygen throughout all of our blood vessels. Speaking of blood vessels, here are two of the important ones that we discussed yesterday: arteries and veins. And what is the difference between those two? Well, the arteries pump blood away from the heart. So they're thick and strong to do their job. And the blood in the arteries contains oxygen. So they pump oxygenated blood away from the heart. And in order to do this pumping, they have thick muscular walls. Right? The veins, on the other hand, pump deoxygenated blood, or rather carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart. And in order to perform this function, veins have valves. So like plumbing in your house, your veins have valves that don't allow backflow. Meaning, like I talked about yesterday, right? We have very long veins that extend from our feet to bring the blood that travels down to our feet back up to our hearts. Those veins have valves, and those valves close to prevent the deoxygenated blood from backflowing back down to your feet. And sometimes if those valves are not functioning properly, you can have blood pooling in your feet, which is, not good for your feet or the rest of your body, right? Because we need to keep all of that blood circulating or moving all the time, which is why it's so important that your heart is beating, that your veins and arteries are healthy, that you have a healthy level of cholesterol, that your blood pressure is healthy, because all of these factors contribute to the health of each individual cell in your body. And if your cells aren't getting the oxygen and nutrients that they need, they're not making ATP, which means the rest of your body, all of your functions are unable to occur, with the exception of like the creation of anaerobic energy. But we'll talk a little bit about that in the Making Connections lab, which is coming up in this unit. So excited. So, what is the name of the body system that transports blood throughout our bodies? That's the circulatory system. Okay, so now I'm not going to show this video because I don't want the video to get taken down, but please click this link and you'll see the Pledmobile video. It's very cute and I'm going to talk about it now. So what are some materials that are transported around the body via the Bloodmobile? So that's oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrients, antibodies, and basically any other materials that need to move throughout our body. The bloodmobile is the delivery service, it's a catchy song, that provides these materials. So the blood system is a delivery service. It quite literally and not only does it deliver oxygen and nutrients to our cells, it also carries wastes away. All right, so then this next part, part B, you do not have the colored text on your notes, but I would like you to copy the colored text. So hold on, I'm trying to get it all on screen for you if you want to take a screenshot of that. But now we're going to talk about it. So the upper right chamber of the heart, the right atrium, which is here, the right atrium is the right upper chamber of the heart, and it receives deoxygenated blood. And you can see here the superior vena cava, that's the biggest vein in our bodies. And that vena tells you it's a vein. We also have the inferior vena cava, right? So these are veins. And there are also arteries that are connected to your heart. But the right atrium receives blood from a vein. So that means it receives deoxygenated blood, or blood with no oxygen in it, from the body through the vena cava and pumps it into the right ventricle. So we're going this way to the right ventricle. And remember that blood at this point is still deoxygenated. There's no oxygen in it. So the right ventricle is the lower right chamber of the heart, and it receives deoxygenated blood from the right atrium and pumps it under low pressure into the lungs via the pulmonary artery. So this is at a low pressure because your lungs are very close by, right? So they don't need a high pressure. And why is the blood traveling to your lungs? Well, the blood needs to make it to your lungs so it can pick up oxygen. So that's very important. And we've been talking about deoxygenated blood up until this point, but now we're going to get to the receipt of oxygen. So the pulmonary artery pumps deoxygenated blood, and the pulmonary vein receives oxygenated blood. But they are the only exceptions to this artery and vein rule. And that pulmonary, that word, that means your lungs. And so the pulmonary artery is still supplying blood to the lungs, and the pulmonary vein is still returning the blood from the lungs. However, because your lungs are where the oxygen is actually taken into the body, the oxygenation of the blood is reversed. So typically, arteries have oxygenated blood and veins have deoxygenated blood, but the pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein are opposite. So again, we started with the right atrium right here, and we followed that to the right ventricle. And now we're making our way to the left atrium, which receives oxygenated blood returning from the lungs and acts as a pump to transport blood to the other areas of the heart. So the left atrium supplies blood to the heart. right? Your heart needs blood supply. So your left atrium supplies that blood to the heart to keep the heart cells functioning and healthy, right? Because the cells in our heart also need to carry out cell respiration. And finally, after their travel, after the blood travels from the pulmonary vein back into the heart, down into the left atrium, is supplied all throughout the heart. It makes its way down to the left ventricle. The left ventricle is maybe the most important chamber of the heart because the left ventricle is the thickest chamber because it is thick and muscular and is pumping oxygenated blood to all of the tissues all over the body. So when the blood enters the left ventricle, it has oxygen. It just came from the lungs. First, your heart is supplied so that, like it puts on its own oxygen mask first, and then it pumps out through the aorta, the biggest artery in our bodies, and pumps the blood all throughout our bodies. So the oxygenated blood that the rest of our body receives comes from the left ventricle, which is a strong muscular pump sending the blood throughout our entire body. And that's the last chamber of the heart. So we have 4 chambers, left and right. And we also have ventricles and atriums. All right, and then at the bottom of your paper, it says there are valves located in places within the heart. These valves are responsible for preventing backflow of blood. Just like the valves in your veins prevent backflow of blood back into other parts of your body, the valves in your heart prevent backflow of blood in your heart. They ensure that blood only travels in one direction, like the arrows we traced, and the veins are the only blood vessels that contain valves. So we have valves in our veins have valves, VV, and we also have valves in our heart. And that is all I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that was nice and short and sweet. Have a super fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow on Zoom. Bye, guys.